Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Okay, let's learn, guys. Original link to the video, top of the description. My name's Connor, if you're new. Hello. Battle of the Gates of Trajan, Basil II, 986. All right. Bulgaria and Byzantines. Let's do it.
The mid-900s saw a period of remarkably peaceful relations between the two major powers of the Balkan Peninsula, the Byzantine Empire and the traditionally hostile Bulgarian Empire. This stood in stark contrast to the beginning of the 10th century, as a war raged between Bulgaria and Eastern Rome that spanned over a decade and saw the former dominate the latter. In the aftermath of this clash, the Bulgarian Empire enjoyed the status of undisputed master of southeastern Europe. Yet, as the century progressed, the balance of power gradually began to shift back towards Byzantium. The Eastern Roman Empire, essentially reduced to its Asian provinces, was still a significant power in the Mediterranean world. With that in mind, the successors of Augustus and Constantine were fixated on reclaiming the lost imperial lands. Such a revival, however, would be no mean feat, with several serious obstacles standing between the Byzantines and their former glory. But then, a certain...
It seems to be a trend with the Byzantine Empire, is a lot of trying to reclaim the former lands of the what used to be the United Roman Empire, and just trying and then getting pushed back for whatever reason, and until it's smaller and smaller.
A young boy by the name of Basil II was crowned emperor.
There's our guy.
I guess you're here because you want to learn about history.
I paused. You guys, I'm gonna watch the ad, of course, guys.
A young boy by the name of Basil II was crowned emperor.
With the ad coming up here, guys, I'm not sure what it is, but if it interests you and you learned it here, make sure to use their codes and everything.
I guess you're here because you want to learn about history, but I'd like to share with you how to learn beyond history for free with my favorite learning tool and the sponsor of this video, Brilliant, by going to brilliant.org/historymarsh or using the link in the description. So why should you try Brilliant? Well, because it allows you to learn a wide range of STEM concepts in an interactive way. They have advanced topics like calculus and gravitational physics, but if you need a refresher, they also have fundamentals of algebra or computer science or logic. There are many courses to choose from. While educational videos are great for getting people excited about learning new things, the best way to learn something new is to do it. And for that, there really isn't a better tool on the internet than Brilliant. You can experiment with demos and simulations, see the effects of changing parameters, and every step of the way you're asked questions which ensure you understand the concepts. And if you ever get stuck, there's always a helpful hint close at hand, and full explanations if you want them. So if you want to learn and understand, and I mean really understand STEM subjects, you can do so for free using my link brilliant.org/historymarsh, and the first 200 of you who sign up will get a 20% discount on their annual premium subscription. I want to thank Brilliant again for supporting History Marsh, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video.
Perfect time.
In 963, Emperor Romanus II passed away at age 26.
Sorry.
In 963, Emperor Romanus II passed away at age 26, leaving his two sons, both under the age of 5, as his only successors. These young boys, the future emperors Basil II and his brother Constantine VIII, were crowned just before the death of their father, but were too young to rule. Their mother, Teophano, a low-born but brilliant and shrewd woman, was intent on securing the unstable position of her family. As one may expect, this was no easy task. Ambitious members of the Anatolian aristocracy were waiting for an opportune moment to usurp the throne. Eunuchs and other conspiring court members sought to pull the strings of government. To secure her position, the imperial widow searched for a suitable groom.
With the amount of times that happens, where, you know, the king or the ruler dies, and then there's a scramble, you know, if their heir is not old enough or strong enough to make sure that no one else takes charge, you'd think they'd have some more, like, life insurance policy, and I'm not sure how you would ensure people adhere by it, because you're going to be dead in this case. But maybe, like, pay some people around you to be super loyal in case you die, to protect your heir if they're too young or something. Maybe I'm being too complicated.
And she soon found one in Nicephorus Phocas, a brilliant Anatolian general.
I paused in the worst.
The imperial widow searched for a suitable groom. And she soon found one in Nicephorus Phocas, a brilliant Anatolian general who had just finished the reconquest of the Muslim emirate of Crete. Now the senior emperor after his marriage to Theophano, Nicephorus would go on to have a particularly successful reign. At first, however, the emperor failed to prevent the Fatimid conquests of the final Byzantine outposts on Sicily, and led an inconclusive war in southern Italy against Holy Roman Emperor Otto I. These minor setbacks would be soon forgotten after Nicephorus's victories against the Syrian Hamdanid dynasty and the recovery of the crucial region of Cilicia after a series of successful campaigns. It was around 966, in the aftermath of these gains, that Bulgarian envoys arrived in Constantinople. Since 927, the Bulgarian Empire had been ruled by Tsar Peter, who ushered in a 4-decade-long peace between his state and Byzantium. As part of this peace, the Romans were obliged to pay an annual tribute to the Bulgarians, who in return would prevent Hungarian and other nomadic tribes from using Bulgaria as a staging ground to raid Byzantine territory. However, exhausted by decades of dry weather and the demanding campaigns of Peter's predecessor, Bulgaria failed to uphold this promise. Additionally, Peter may have condoned the raids in retaliation for Byzantine support for Serbia in their ongoing conflict with Bulgaria. Therefore, when Peter's envoys arrived at Constantinople in 966, Emperor Nicephorus had them beaten and sent back empty-handed to the Bulgarian capital of Preslav. Confident after his success in the east, the Roman emperor began to shift his attention back to the Balkans. However, instead of dirtying his own hands, Nicephorus sent envoys and lavish gifts to Kiev, the capital of the Rus. Having just destroyed the Khazar Khaganate, the Prince of Kiev, Svetoslav, responded enthusiastically to this proposal of a combined invasion of Bulgaria. In 968, he landed near the Danube Delta with an army of around 60,000 men. In mere months, the Kievan prince annihilated all Bulgarian forces he came into contact with and captured as many as 80 fortresses in the east of the country.
Jeez.
Nicephorus was alarmed by the speed with which the Rus defeated Bulgaria and began to doubt the intentions of Svetoslav.
It's not. It's like, whoa, you're. Okay, nice job. You're attacking. Whoa, you're being a little too successful. Okay, hold on. Wow. All right.
That same year, he negotiated a separate peace with Tsar Peter, who sent his young sons Boris and Roman to Constantinople as negotiators and honorary hostages. Soon after, the Byzantine emperor bribed the nomadic Pech.
So honorary hostage, that's just like a good omen, or a gesture of good faith, and just been like, hey, this is for real. In fact, if this isn't for real, you have my sons and you can do what you want with them. if I'm lying or something.
Pechenegs to attack Kiev. Soon
that
after,
has to be
the
it, right?
Byzantine emperor bribed the nomadic Pechenegs to attack Kiev. This was initially as negotiators and honorary hostages. Soon after, the Byzantine emperor bribed the nomadic Pechenegs to attack Kiev. This was initially successful, as the Rus prince was forced to return to his capital to lift the siege.
Jeez,
However, much to the displeasure of both Bulgarians and Romans,
the diplomatic games that just went down are crazy.
However, much to the displeasure of both Bulgarians and Romans, Svetoslav returned the following summer, intending to subdue all eastern Bulgaria. At this critical junction, Tsar Peter died from a stroke and was succeeded by his son Boris II, who had just returned from Constantinople. These were tumultuous times in Byzantium as well. In December 969, Nikephoros was murdered in his sleep as part of a conspiracy organized by Empress Tiaphano and the emperor's nephew John Tzimiskes, who then assumed the throne. The new emperor had no intentions of sending aid to Bulgaria in their renewed conflict with the Rus. Furthermore, John's ascension immediately sparked a revolt in Caesarea, led by another nephew of Nikephoros, a man named Bardas Phokas. Realizing his desperate situation, the new Bulgarian Tsar Boris successfully allied himself to his former enemy, Svetoslav. In 970, a massive Russo-Bulgarian force crossed the Balkan Mountains, conquered Philippopolis, and headed towards Constantinople. In the meantime,
It's crazy how not just all of the political moves and side switching that's going on, but the fact that we can't see from this video how they would have. We don't have cameras. We can't. But it seems like everyone is like getting betrayed. And then, like, doing a wheel, like, getting betrayed, and then the next time they're okay with now getting back on the team that betrayed them against the guy that they used to be with, and it's just like, okay, we're with you now. All right, I'm against you. All right, I'm back with you. It just seems to be going too smoothly
John
without people being, like, executed or something.
Philippopolis and headed towards Constantinople. In the meantime, John Tzimiskes had sent his trusted general of the East, Bardas Skleros, to deal with the rebellion of Bardas Phokas. After swiftly putting down the revolt in Anatolia, Skleros was sent to Thrace to intercept the Russo-Bulgarian army. By March 970, the Slavic force had reached the town of Arkadiopolis, where they were met and annihilated by Bardas Skleros. Tzimiskes organized an expedition to expel the Rus from the Balkans the following year. In 971, the Byzantines crossed into Moesia, capturing the Bulgarian capital and the major fortress of Dorostolon, and finally forced Svetoslav and his army to leave for good. Following this victory, 71, the Byzantines crossed into Moesia, capturing the Bulgarian capital and the major fortress of Dorostolon, and finally forced Svetoslav and his army to leave for good. Following this victory, John transformed the former Bulgarian heartland of Moesia into a Byzantine province, capturing Tsar Boris and proclaiming the country annexed.
Guys, so why is it that the Byzantines seem to be so successful in different eras in taking back former lands that they have, only for them to never be able to have a grasp on them like the Roman Empire used to? My main question is, do you think that the enemies, I don't know if that's a great word, the peoples around what were the Roman Empire borders that were kept at bay or conquered on the way for Rome to control them and their empire growing, did they just become, did this kind of the skill gap between other European tribes, peoples, whatever you want to call them, and the people around the Mediterranean, did that just skill gap keep narrowing? And so it's just, they're not dealing with as, I'm wondering if it's that they're less capable politically and militarily than the Romans used to be, or if their opponents just got better at fighting with on kind of even level and even, you know, military tactics that they probably learned. And do you know what I'm trying to ask? Like, they seem so successful and powerful, the Byzantines, and then they just, it's like grow, shrink, grow, shrink. They can never kind of get a full hold on it.
Yet resistance was beginning to
on
mount
former territories
in the western half of the once strong Bulgarian Empire. Preoccupied with his two famous invasions of Syria, Tzimiskes neglected to put any effort into securing the still independent western half of Bulgaria. Four relatives of Tsar Boris, the brothers David, Moses, Aaron, and Samuel, organized local resistance. From 976 onwards, with their base at Sredets, the brothers would launch raids and capture many Byzantine forts in Greece and Macedonia. However, the two elder brothers, David and Moses, died as soon as 977. Moses was struck by a stone while he besieged Ceres, whilst David was murdered by hired thugs. In the meantime, John Tzimiskes passed away in 976 on his return journey from a victorious campaign in Syria. Finally, the firstborn son of the old Emperor Romanus, Basil II, who was now of age, could rule as senior emperor. However, for the first 10 years of his reign, much of the decision-making fell to Basil's eunuch uncle, Basil Lacapenus.
What was the point of making eunuchs? And I sometimes wish in videos like these, they're already amazing, that they would zoom out a bit to kind of view, you know, Europe, North Africa, Middle East, maybe even some Asia, even providing no context, but just kind of showing the powers that, you know, were more east of here, and I'm just so I can get more familiar. I can do this on my own, obviously, but it would be nice every now and then in these videos, even when it's the other areas aren't relevant to what's being taught in the video, just so I can be like, oh yeah, they're in charge over there, or they're in power over there. Also, the eunuch thing, to guard a harem or something like that, or just the symbolic thing? I don't...
Their hold on power was immediately challenged as the victor of Arcadiopolis, General Bardas Skleros, was proclaimed emperor by his forces in Anatolia. To counter the rebellion, Lacapenus recalled Bardas Phocas from exile, who had previously been defeated by Skleros during his revolt against Emperor Tzimiskes. After losing the first two engagements against Skleros, Bardas Phocas finally defeated the pretender in 979, forcing him to seek refuge in Baghdad. In the meantime, the remaining leaders of the Bulgarian resistance, Aaron and Samuel, managed to expand their control in Greece and Macedonia. In 983, Samuel captured Larissa, the main city of Thessaly, and one of the most strategically important Byzantine strongholds in the Balkans. The Romans reacted sluggishly as tensions between the young emperor, his eunuch co-ruler, and the victorious Bardas Phocas reached boiling point. After accusing him of conspiring with Phocas, Basil II removed his uncle from power in 985. Now, finally, the sole ruler in Constantinople, the young and ambitious emperor knew that he had to prove himself as a capable commander if he was to maintain his position. And so, Basil assembled an army of 25,000 and prepared for an invasion of western Bulgaria, planning to strike straight at the heart of the country by capturing the new capital of Sredets. Before beginning the siege, the Byzantine emperor sought to divide his opposition through diplomacy and guile. Basil offered Aaron, who then controlled Sredets, his sister's hand in marriage. Realizing that the support of the Roman emperor could help him gain control over Bulgaria and depose his ambitious brother Samuel, Aaron accepted Basil's offer. Yet, instead of sending his actual sister, Anna, Basil sent the wife of an official disguised as the Byzantine princess. Eventually, Aaron uncovered the truth and, in an outburst of fury, burnt alive the Byzantine bishop accompanying the woman.
Oh.
It is
Oh,
worth
as if
noting
that's
that the
okay.
occurrence of this incident is contested.
Sorry, I was like, oh god, they burned her alive or whatever, and when it wasn't her, I feel like when I said oh, it made it be like, oh, that's fine. Obviously not.
It is worth noting that the occurrence of this incident is contested, with some sources instead suggesting that it was the elder Basil, Lycopenus, who instigated the plot in 976, after which Samuel had Aaron and most of his family executed.
Guys, question. So, how are these people, like the Bulgarians and the Rus and the Hungarians, living at the time? What kind of government is it? Is it just like a, like are they living in these big cities that were kind of? I keep kind of thinking of them as like barbarians in like the Roman sense, but there has to be a lot of Roman infrastructure left behind. And do they, like, what would Sredets look like? Just, it's hard for me to picture, like thatched houses, or I don't know. What?
In any case, conflict was now inevitable, and Basil's army began its march towards Sredets early.
Obviously, these places are probably extremely old, and a lot of them pre-existed the current Bulgarian people in charge. When I think of the West, non-Byzantine, after the Romans, and I know this is, centuries after, like 3 centuries, 4 centuries after, 5. Yeah, I have so much trouble trying to picture kind of everyday life of someone living in these areas.
In the summer of 980, and executed. After which Samuel had Aaron and most of his family executed. In any case, conflict was now inevitable, and Basil's army began its march towards Sredets early in the summer of 986. By July, Basil neared the border where he captured the fortress of Stenos, which guarded a narrow mountain pass known as Trajan's Gates. This fortress was a crucial checkpoint that connected Sredets to Philippopolis. By the end of the month, the Byzantines reached Sredets and constructed a fortified camp. Located in the town, Aaron and his garrison had no intention to surrender. The Bulgarians had evacuated all livestock from the region and employed scorched earth tactics to try and starve the Byzantines into a withdrawal. Furthermore, Bulgarian garrisons stationed at the local Boyana and Urvic strongholds began to intercept and destroy Byzantine reconnaissance parties. The siege dragged on for 20 days. In the evenings, the defenders would sally forth from Sredets and harass the Byzantine forces close to their camp. In one instance, the Bulgarians successfully burned down most of the Roman siege equipment.
Ballista or
Hungry,
catapult?
tired, and running out of supplies, Basil began considering a withdrawal to Philippopolis. This course of action became even more appealing when news of an approaching relief force led by Samuel reached the Byzantine camp. However, before Basil could even begin the retreat, the Byzantine garrison stationed...
Question. Would you, if you were about to... Easier said than done, I realize this. But if you're approaching... Oh my god, the more I think about this, the more impossible it seems. If you're approaching a city that you want to besiege, and there's a very good chance that it's not going to be quick, would you want to send, because I realize, well, they're they're going to be aware of your army moving towards the city well before the bulk of your forces get anywhere close. But would you want to kind of send people in troops kind of ahead more stealthily before your army? Yeah, but how would they survive? Actually, they could... Wait. Even if they are caught... Sorry. Would you want to send them to kind of go and block any major pathways and roads so that word can't go out, which will tell them what's going on, and then reinforcements will get there? But then the more I think about it, I'm like, wait, they're going to know you're coming long before you can even surround the area. And so you could send people ahead, but then they could get captured by an army, but then they would be lured out. Do you know if they ever did that? Or was it just not practical? You know, send people ahead to make sure a messenger can go out and tell them what's happening.
The relief force led by Samuel reached the Byzantine camp. However, before Basil could even begin the retreat, the Byzantine garrison stationed at Trajan's gates abandoned their positions and returned to Philippopolis, leaving the main force in grave danger. Samuel quickly learned of this and took position around the northern, western, and southern mountain slopes around the pass. News of a Bulgarian ambush began spreading panic among the Byzantine army. To make matters worse, Basil's officers had convinced the emperor that Leo Melicinos, the commander of the garrison that had pulled back to Philippopolis, was heading for Constantinople to claim the throne. This forced Basil to order a quick march, leading to a disorganized and poorly planned retreat. By August 16, the Byzantine army entered the narrow pass, where Samuel's men had taken position. Stretched into a long column, Basil's army was comprised of a cavalry vanguard and the infantry located in the rear, while the emperor, guarded by an elite unit of Armenian footmen, was situated in the center of the column. Basil decided to spend the night within the pass, much like the Byzantine army that suffered a crushing defeat.
This feels like Teutoburg Forest.
Near Varbitsa in 811, which we covered in a previous video. Repeating the failures of the past would prove to be a massive error. Samuel had already positioned his 10,000-strong army on the mountain slopes and surrounded the Romans on 3 sides. Just before dawn, he sounded the attack. The Byzantines were caught off guard, and their organization quickly began to melt away under the onslaught. Whilst Basil's elite guard put up a strong resistance, the regular Byzantine infantry in the rear suffered severe losses. Further ahead in the valley, the Roman cavalry was still standing its ground. However, in time, its formation also began to disintegrate. Realizing that they and their emperor were in grave danger, Basil's Armenian infantry began pushing towards a small forested road. Stuck in the melee, the Armenians began aggressively cutting down everyone in their way, including their own allies, eventually making their way to the nearby passage. As Basil fled toward Philippopolis, the Byzantine infantry was massacred by Samuel's men. Whilst some of the cavalry successfully fled the battlefield, most suffered the same fate as the Byzantine foot, ending the engagement in a decisive Bulgarian victory. Basil had barely escaped death. The following year, he would have to deal with another revolt initiated by Bardas Phokas and a resurgent Bardas Skleros. Upon learning of his brother's attempt...
Wait, are they joining now?
The resurgent Bardas Skleros. Upon learning of his brother's attempted betrayal, Samuel ordered his execution. Now the sole ruler of Bulgaria, and with Basil weakened and busy on the domestic front, Samuel vastly expanded Bulgaria, reconquering Moesia together with the former capital of Preslav. Yet Emperor Basil II was a resilient ruler, and in time, the Macedonian emperor would prove that the battle at Trajan's gates had only delayed his designs. His 4-decade would see Byzantium reach its greatest territorial extent in 4 centuries, and his victories in future campaigns would earn Basil II the nickname Bulgar Slayer. If you stayed around this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment as a sacrifice to the algorithm. You can also support us on Patreon and get ad-free early access to our videos for as little as $1, or by clicking the thanks button below to leave a one-time tip.
Great video. History March is awesome. Great recommendation. That was a lot of fun. Bulgaria, I'm kind of learning about them, at least in any time period prior to World War I, or the Balkan Wars era. Very interesting. Hope you guys are all doing well. Would appreciate any comments, any answers to my questions. You guys are always good with that. Any comments at all. Yeah, hope you're all doing well. See you next time. Bye, guys.